with just a blank Flutter app. I'm going to delete all of the widgets here, and I'm just going to start with a stateless widget. Put the My App inside. We have a material app. I always check this grid, this banner off, which is this banner, the debug banner here. And for home, I'm just going to call it home page for now. And let's make a stateful widget and call that home page, and we can put our scaffold inside. So if I just save this and run it, it should just be blank. Okay, I'm going to make a new file and call it homepage.dart, and let's move all this stuff. So import material, save, import. Okay, so it just makes it a little bit cleaner. And first off, I'm going to change the background color. Let's set it to be, say, 700, actually like this. And body, I'm going to start off with a column, and in the column we're going to have two things. We're going to have an expanded grid view, grid view builder. Let's do sliver grid delegate with fixed axis cross count, and let's put 10 in each row. Build context return something. Also for the number of squares in total, let's just call it number of squares and place that up here. So integer number of squares, and let's say like 160. Okay, we're going to return container, and let's give it a color, black. Cool. Also, we had an expanded widget there, so I'm going to put another expanded widget on the bottom, and let's just call this red. And I want this flex to be, say, 4. Okay, so hopefully we get a grid. Okay, so on the bottom, I'm just going to put some controls. So actually, I'm going to make this flex a bit bigger, make it 5. Yep, I think that's enough size. And for this container, if we add a little padding, then we should be able to see our grid. Also, I'm going to wrap my container with a clip round rectangle widget. So this one is really useful for making the borders round. So say like 10. Yeah, you can see it just kind of goes round. I'm going to say like 6. Okay, now I'm going to make another file, and we're going to call it pixel.dart, just to represent each of these pixels. Material, and let's grab this guy. So we're going to have a stateless widget. I'm going to call it my pixel, and we're going to return that same thing. One thing in here is I'm going to have a final, let's say, color, and make a constructor, this dot color, and so whatever color I pass through will be the color of the container. Okay, so for example down here, now I can say like my pixel, and you can choose, actually I haven't imported it yet, and then you can choose the color for this. So colors.black for now. Okay, cool. And at the bottom, if I just reformat this, instead of just making it red, let's add a couple buttons. So child, row, children, and we're going to have 2 buttons. I'm actually going to make another button file in a second, but let's just make it in here for now. So let's say clip rect, and the radius, similar to before, let's make it 10. Put it in a container, and the color, let's make it pretty dark. And in the child, for now, let's just put a text, see what we can say. So I'm going to say play. Alright, let's see what happens. Okay, so it looks like it's really tiny there. So first thing is the main axis alignment. Let's align this to the middle. And, oh, actually we want this one, space. Let's do space evenly. Okay, and in the container, let's, actually we can make this an expanded widget as well, I think, to fill the space. Yeah, okay, so it looks like that just expanded the thing sideways. So in the container, let's add a padding and say like 20. And the last thing is actually center. Let's center these. Wrap with center. Wrap with center. Okay. Also, before I move on, I want to make this into a new file, as I said before, so our code doesn't get too cluttered. So let's call this file button.dart. I'm going to import material, state, another stateless widget, and let's call it my button. And what did I just copy? I copied this guy. Okay, so let's return that. Get rid of this. And what we want to pass through is a child, which is what we're going to put in here. So our constructor is this one. So this dot child, and over here, that means we can delete these and just say my button, which first we need to import, and we should have child, so we can now put it here. Looks a lot cleaner. So we had play, and also while we're here, let's change the style so that we can change the color. So let's make it white. Okay, so same thing, but over here, let's say stop, and the size as well. I think 40, maybe 30 is good. Alright, that's good enough. Actually, just one more thing. Let's add a little padding. And just a padding of 4. Okay. Okay, so now that we have these ones, we want to make these buttons clickable, right? So we're going to have to actually add on a gesture detector. So let's come over here to our button, wrap it with a widget, gesture detector, and over here on the on tap, we want to pass through a certain function. So this function, let's build it, and we can pass through this in our home page. So this dot function. So if you come over here, you should have a function option now. So the first one is just playing, right? So I'm going to just call it start game. So we haven't built that yet, so we'll build that in a second. And for this one, let's say, oh whoops, the function is stop. So I'm going to call this one stack. So if you come here, we can now make void start game and void stack. So we have to fill out these methods now. So the first thing I want to occur is when I want to hit the play button. That means we're going to need the bottom, we need like a piece on the bottom, right? So let's say list of integers, and let's say pieces, or let's just call it piece. And for the piece, as soon as we hit start game, we want piece to equal to number of squares minus 1, number of squares minus 2, and just one more. So basically what I did is number of squares is 160. If you start at 0, then the last number is 159, which means 160 is off the screen. So if I go number of squares minus 1, and also minus 2 and minus 3, that's these last 3 squares here. Okay, so that's going to be our piece. And so just to show you that in motion, if I actually just initialize it over here, or actually, yeah, never mind. I'll show you in a second. Okay, so when we hit play, we want something to happen. So I want to say set state, and I want to start a timer. So timer.periodic. Actually, we need to import this one here, dot.async. Timer.periodic. We want a duration of milliseconds. I think 250 is good for now, which we'll test. And what we want to happen every 250 milliseconds is we want to start moving the pieces to the left, right? So we're going to grab all the pieces, all the numbers in piece. So for int equals to 1, equals to 0, and going through pieces or piece.length. Oops. We're going to say piece I plus actually minus 1. So I'm going through all the numbers in pieces in the piece list, which are just integers, and I'm just subtracting 1 to each of them, okay, which will effectively move them all to the left. So that's going to occur every 250 milliseconds. Also, in our grid, since we're just returning black pixels, we want to do a little check now and say if so if we have pieces, so if piece dot contains the index, then return white. Otherwise, Otherwise, return black. Alright, let's see how this works. Okay, so if we hit play, yeah, cool, so there it is. Incorrect use of parent data with widget. Okay, that's probably something to do with this. Get rid of this guy. Actually, I think I should put this timer outside and then get rid of this. And then put the set state inside. Yeah, there we go. Cool, so it's moving every 250 milliseconds. We're just subtracting one, and it's just constantly just going left. So what we want to do in this game of stacks is actually when it hits the wall, we want it to move right. So that's just a matter of changing this minus to a plus, but we need to know when it hits the wall, right? So I'm going to say, let's call it just a variable, or call it direction, and let's call it, for the beginning, we're going the direction of left. And when we hit start game, we're going to check every 250 milliseconds, we're going to check the direction. So how do we do that? So if direction equals right, otherwise direction equals left. Okay, so we want this effect to happen, and so to check if the direction is right, we're going to do a little bit of maths, and this number is 0, and we have 10 in each row, so it's going to be 0, 10, 20, 30, 40 in this whole column. So if we take the first piece and we divide it by 10 and it equals to 0, that means it's in its first column. Basically, this percent sign is once you divide as many 10s, what is the remainder? So if everything here is divisible by 10, that means the remainder is 0, which means then we are on the very end of the wall. Okay, at which point we're going to hit right. Otherwise, the direction is going to be left. Actually, I should give this also another check. If pieces dot, for this one I'm going to check pieces dot last because it will be the rightmost object. So actually I'm going to swap this around. And if this is 9, then that's everything on the last column. So it's like 9, 19, 29, 39. So yeah, in which case you're going to go left. Okay, if it's none of these, then you're just constantly going the direction that you came from. Okay, so here now we can say if direction equals right, do this. If it's not right, then do this. Okay, let's see how this works. Cool, so it's just going to flop back between left and right. Okay, so now that we got that down, we want to use this stop button. So if we hit stop, then we want it to freeze and go to the next row, right? So then we're going to need to collect another list of integers, and I'm going to call this like landed. Okay, so anytime we hit stop, which is this stack method, we're going to say landed.add, and we're going to add this guy here. So in our quick for loop, which I'm addicted to, starting from I is equal to 0 for how long the piece is. We're going to add the piece, all of them, to landed. Okay, which means when we build the grid, we're not only just checking for the piece now, we're also checking for the landed guys as well. So else if landed contains the index, then also return a white one. Okay, so if we hit stop, then we're going to stack, we're going to land a piece, and let's just see what happens. Let's restart this. Okay, good. So we know that the stop works. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to control the piece, right? Now the piece, I'm going to introduce something else now. Integer and the row. So I'm just going to call it level, and right now it's level 0. So level 0, level 1, 2, 3. And we're going to use this level times 10 to determine what the level is. So obviously right now, well, when you fire up the game, we set it to be 0, right? So level times 10, level times 10, these are all zeros. So it's just the same as where we started off. But once we increment a level, which we'll do now, which is any time this is pressed, I plus plus, oh shit, level plus plus. So anytime we hit stack, we're going to increment the level. Then this is going to be 1, so it'll be minus 10 and minus 10. So let's see how that works. Oh, I can just add it at the end. Alright, let's see. Good. Okay, sweet. So now that we got that to work, now I bet you when I click stop, it's going to just land wherever. So like, yeah, it'll just freeze there. So we don't want this to happen. We want it to stack, right? So a way we can do that is we can check every time and make sure that there is a piece below all the other pieces. So when I hit stack, we're going to check for so let's call it check stack. I'm going to call it void check stack. And over here, what we're going to do is we're going to do another quick for loop. And we're going to check through all the landed pieces. So landed.length, increment through. And we're going to check if landed contains landed plus 10. So basically what I'm doing is I'm checking through every landed piece, so each pixel, and if I add 10 to the number, which is just checking the next row down, I'm just checking if that number is already in the landed list. So if it is, then you're on top of another landed piece. So that's just what I'm checking. And basically this is a yes or no, so it's a boolean. So I'm going to say if landed contains it, or rather if it doesn't contain it, then landed dot remove. that thing. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. Basically, I'm checking again, +10, if the next piece in the next row is in the landed list. If it's not, then I'm going to remove that piece. Okay, so let's just check this. I might have to do this for loop a couple times because, yeah, we'll test it out. Okay, so looks like it's not, oh, again, I forgot to do the set state. Set state. And actually I'm just going to add another for loop. Okay, stop, stack. No, it looks like they're all... Oh, I found a mistake. If we check the next row and then it doesn't exist, then we are removing the piece, not the one in the next row. Let's try that. Cool. Oh, and also we want to make sure that it's not the last one, because the last one doesn't have anything above it always. So we also want to check that the landed plus 10 is smaller than the number of squares minus 1. So we're just ensuring that we're just checking the numbers that are within this square, not off the grid. And let's just do 2 of them just to make sure we get them. Okay, I think this is the one. Yay. Okay, so you can see it's chopping off the one that it doesn't catch. Cool. Okay, now let's add in some levels. So right now it's going 3, it continues to be 3 pieces. Once we get to maybe like 4 or 5 levels, let's reduce it to 2, and then at another point, let's just reduce it down to 1. And also maybe we can change the speed as well, make it go faster. So let's say once we hit level 4, so we're incrementing the levels here. So I'm going to say, let's copy this and say if the level is less than 4, then do what we usually did. Else if the level is greater or equal to 4, but less than, say, we have 15 or 16 levels, right? So let's say, I don't know, 8. Then do something. Else if level is greater or equal to 8, then do something as well. Okay, so first of all, there's 3 pieces up until level 4. After that, let's get rid of one of these. And then after that, let's get rid of 2, so you have 1 piece. Okay, let's see if that works. Cool, so we are now down to 1 piece. Okay, now once we hit, let's have a winning condition just while we're here. So once we hit the top, which we can check, right? And I want to do that up here. We want to check the winner. So I'm going to say check winner every 250 milliseconds. Let's build the method. Check winner. And we want to say show dialog context. And for now, let's just give it a title and say winner. Okay, now we need to check this winner, and we want to show this dialog when landed, when the last object, the last number that's added and landed is less than 10. So 10 is how many boxes there are in each row. So if we just check the last one in landed, if it ever was able to land, and it's also a single digit number, then that means it's in the top. At which point we'll call this alert dialog. Now let's just see if this works. I'm not sure if I might have to set state this or not, but let's have a look. Whoops, it landed. We got a winner already. Oh my god. Oh, that's because I added -1. I'm just going to add a crazy big number because it was giving me an error because there was nothing in it. So I just put a really big number, which is not going to affect our game because it's just way off the grid. Okay, let's stack this, and hopefully once we get to the top, we get an alert dialog. Oh, if I can get there. Oh, my hand's getting sweaty. This better work. Cool, and we got a winner. And actually, if I check winner, actually, how should I do this? I'm going to call this a boolean, and I'm going to say show dialog void show dialog. I'll explain what I'm doing in just a second. So return true, else return false. So I don't know if you caught that, but it actually checked this condition. It just continued checking it, so there was a bit of a staggered effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an if statement and say, okay, check the winner, which I now made into a boolean. So it's going to return either true or false. So if it's true, then show the dialog, and also timer cancel. This is what I wanted to do. If I don't cancel the timer, then it's going to keep checking, and then that's going to screw our app up. And that's it. So just check the winner, otherwise continue on. So let's just check that real quick. And I think that's it, but we'll just check, see if this works. Okay, cool. And yeah, that's it. I'm just going to leave it at that. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.